Let's bring the issues a little closer to home now within the 4th Congressional District. Gold Butte NCA with wilderness. You knew I was going to ask that question.
Well, I think there's no doubt how I feel about it. We continue to want to create more wilderness area. For what purpose does it do? What changes with this NCA? On one hand, we talk about how we are going to try to protect it and watch over it, but on the other hand, we're talking about how this is going to bring more people here. You know, you look at Red Rock, it's been vandalized. Millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars spent every year on Red Rock to protect it. It still gets vandalized. Yeah, there's a lot of tourists go there. People are coming here maybe, but it's only because we're creating this environment that we want to attract to it. We have proven that if we can take care of it ourselves right here locally, that we do a better job. It's been told by the BLM that the reason they don't have a lot of enforcement out here is they don't need it. It's because we are stewards of our land. We care about where we're at there. Why do we continue to want to make wilderness that takes away from the wildlife and causes issues that my ancestors have stated that a number of times that wildlife wasn't here. Everybody looks at the Virgin River and thinks that it was a big riparian habitat. I can show you pictures of this river, and it was a desert bottom with mesquite bushes on it. I didn't have the riparian habitat that we have today. Man created that. So give us credit for doing things right. The wildlife that was on the mountain, the deer and stuff back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, was all there and came because of the water that was developed. The range was used. Cattle have proven time and time again that they eat the invasive species that are out there that are not indigenous to this area. So when you take that away and you cut back on that livestock, then you have fuel for fires. How many fires we had on this mountain range over the last 30 years? It's kind of destroyed the whole habitat that we're supposed to be taking care of. So, and that's what has happened with most wilderness areas. Government hasn't proven that they can take care of anything out there. Those areas that are of forests that we stopped harvesting wood have already been planted and redeveloped and ready to harvest again. Other areas that the government's been in charge of are burnt down, and they've got nothing out of it. We can't even go take care of the trees that are dead because of the bark beetle. What a management plan is that? Oh, let's don't get rid of a species that's not supposed to be here in the first place, that come from somewhere else.
What do you think is the, this is going to be a two-part question. What do you think is the silver bullet, if you will, for improving the economy in the state of Nevada?
A silver bullet.
Yeah.
I think there's a major issue out there that I truly believe that we have an opportunity. If you've been paid attention or been watching the lands that are in the federal government's hands right now, or restricting the West, and have done. In 1828, the West at that time was Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, Illinois, Florida, Missouri, and Mississippi, I'll forget the other one, but Louisiana.
Louisiana.
That was the West Coast at that time. In 1828, they got their lands back with statehood. The government did what they told. And it was said that no state can be a sovereign state without having being on a fair platform with all other states. More than 20 times we were promised in 1864 that we would be on the equal footing with all other states if we joined in statehood. That means getting our lands back into our hands. That promise has been failed. It didn't happen. 85% of our state is private sector lands. Why are our solar plants being leased by the BLM and they're getting the federal government gets those lease rates? Why are we dealing with geothermal systems that have to go through the federal government when we could do it better? There's almost dual inspection on everything because for our state because we have federal lands coming in and checking on things, and we have to come check in, but with no gain back for our side of this, other than through fees. So I think it's a major issue when we don't have the tax dollars, the tax base to be able to fund education. I think that's why the West is falling further behind, is we don't have the same privileges that other states do to be able to tax those lands that we have within our state.
So some people say that because the federal government owns 85% of the land in Nevada, that is 85% of the land that the state of Nevada cannot tax and keep that money in its coffers for things like education, improving education. That's a fact?
That's a fact.
Okay.
I believe that is an unequivocal fact, that we are challenged to be able to tax those properties that are within our state, that we are challenged to be able to develop business or offer things to businesses like other states do, such as land, for them to come and be involved in our state. There's resources out there that we have to ask permission to look at or be involved with, and then we get no benefit from it other than the employment benefit when mining comes. Mm-hmm. So I believe those are all issues that the state is better equipped to handle, and the federal government needs to back away. I actually believe that people talk about how well, we can't manage the land with the BLM, we won't have that. Well, we already have folks out there that are fish and game officers and others that are watching the land. We could increase that and get a better benefit from our land issues on that end too. So there's ways to do it. I don't want our areas that are national parks or national defense. Let the government keep those type of properties. That has been a benefit to the state to have Nellis Air Force Base here over the years, but it's also been a challenge to have it here too, and cost billions of dollars by not having control of we'll say Yucca Mountain area, those areas. So.
Well, and that in my mind, that ties in also back to the Gold Butte issue with the NCA and wilderness, because right now that whole area is designated as an area of critical environmental concern. So it is under the BLM's control. But what if the BLM just said, hey, you know what, you guys can have X acres back for development? I mean, you go south of Bunkerville, and there's a lot of land out there that could potentially, later in life, probably much later in our lives, could be developed with either industry, solar farms that the local district would own, or housing, things like that. You know, pretty soon it's going to be real easy to landlock Mesquite specifically.
You have communities all over the state that are landlocked, that can't do anything else, because you take Ely, Gabbs, any of those places that, you know, they're out there in the middle of nowhere, they're challenged to be able to expand. Elko's challenged to be able to expand because it's all federal lands around it. Why is the federal government in charge of lands that are, these states should be state lands and responsibility? Let us determine what we want to, where we want our parks and recreation, where we want if we have a wilderness area. I think we're all good stewards of the land. Do I believe that the Gold Butte area is critical habitat? No, I don't. I think it's a habitat that's been being taken care of, and I think we've done a better job of it than just letting it sit there.
There is a statistic that came from Partners in Conservation that said if you draw a 100-mile circle around Mesquite, and that includes Vegas, that constitutes about 20 million acres. 16 million of it is already designated as some kind of federal government widget, for lack of better words. I mean, you're talking Nellis Air Force Base, the test range, all of the national conservation areas, the monuments, parks, everything else. Out of a 100-mile radius around Mesquite, that leaves 4 million acres. That's a lot of land that we cannot draw taxes from.
Absolutely. It's back to, I think, the egos of men within Congress to try to create themselves a title that, you know, I'm Mr. Protector of the land. They want to do certain things to get their name on it, so to speak. I truly believe that. This is not an issue of whether there's an endangered species or anything else. It's like the sage grouse up north, the deal that's happening.
You're right.
You know,
It's kind of the equivalent of the desert tortoise down south.
yeah,
of
the
Nevada.
desert tortoise. They've never shown studies that show that said that it's endangered. Show me the numbers. Show me why you think it's endangered. I've lived here all my life. I've run this rangeland out here to the south of us for years as a child. And, you know, there was no more or no less tortoises today than there was then. It's virtually easy. But all of a sudden now today, we've got too many in the Las Vegas area. We've got to euthanize them. And you can't have one unless you have it spayed and neutered. You know, isn't that interesting concept? You know, if it's an endangered species, that doesn't make any sense to me how that works. Same thing up north, you know, hunted sage grouse. I see no more or less today than I in the 60s when I was hunting when I was a kid than there is today. But all of a sudden now it's an issue. We're going to take 60 million acres and try to create a habitat, a wilderness habitat for it. Mm-hmm. It's all about wilderness area. It's all about, I think, confining people in pockets. I'll use the Agenda 21.
Okay.
I'm a believer in the Agenda 21 program, that it's a dangerous path that certain individuals are pushing, shoving us down. So.